What if the worst day of your life became the beginning of your greatest blessing? Meet Kelechi, a pregnant, hard-working nurse with a broken heart, and a destiny that refused to let her give up. On her way to work, in the middle of labor, she risked her own life to save a stranger, unaware that fate had just connected her to Adekunle, a billionaire whose life and heart would change forever. This is a story of courage, unexpected love, divine timing, and a baby named Savior. A reminder that miracles often come disguised as chaos. If you love emotional Nigerian stories filled with romance, humor, and powerful life lessons, like this story. Comment your favorite moment. Subscribe for more inspiring stories that will touch your heart and keep you believing in love again. Don't miss the next one, because the next miracle might be even closer than you think. Kelechi had learned early in life that tears did not pay bills. They didn't cook food, didn't renew rent, didn't keep the lights on. So she cried only at night, quietly into her pillow, then woke up every morning like a soldier reporting for duty. That morning was no different. The alarm rang at 5 o'clock a.m., its sharp sound slicing through her sleep. Kelechi groaned softly and shifted on the bed, her hand instinctively going to her belly, round, heavy, alive. "Mummy is awake," she whispered, rubbing slow circles over her stomach. A dull tightening followed. She paused. The pain wasn't unfamiliar. For days now, her body had been sending signals, small warnings she chose to ignore. Nurses were funny that way. They could recognize symptoms in others instantly, but would dismiss the same signs in themselves. She inhaled deeply as the tightening passed. "False alarm," she murmured. "You still have time. I'm not ready yet." The room she shared with her unborn child was modest but neat. Her nursing textbooks were stacked carefully beside her bed. A small wardrobe stood against the wall, and on the opposite side was a framed photograph she had forgotten to take down. A picture of her and her former fiancé, smiling foolishly, taken before life showed its teeth. She didn't look at it anymore. She bathed quickly, humming an old gospel song under her breath, then dressed in her crisp nurse's uniform. Even pregnancy hadn't dulled her sense of pride. Her uniform was always clean, her shoes polished, her headscarf neatly tied. As she packed her bag, another wave of discomfort rolled through her. She stopped, gripping the bedpost. "Okay," she whispered. "I hear you. But after today, eh? Let me finish this shift." The baby responded with a kick. She laughed softly. "You too like argument." Outside, the early Lagos air was thick with movement and noise. Hawkers shouted. Cars honked. Life was already running at full speed. Kelechi locked her door and joined the flow, adjusting her bag strap and walking carefully but quickly. As she approached the roadside to catch a taxi, her mind drifted, briefly, dangerously, to the past, to the phone call. "Kelechi, you're a good woman, but let's be realistic." She swallowed hard and shook her head, pushing the memory away. "No time," she muttered. "I'm working." She raised her hand to flag a taxi when she noticed the man. He stood beside a sleek black car, phone in hand, dressed sharply like someone who controlled boardrooms and people alike. Then suddenly, his movements slowed. His shoulders sagged. Kelechi frowned. The man staggered. "Sir?" someone called casually. Then he collapsed. Time froze for half a second, then panic erupted. People screamed. Some ran closer, others stepped back in fear. "Is he dead?" "Don't touch him. I beg. Who knows what'll happen?" Kelechi didn't think. Her bag fell to the ground as she pushed forward, her voice cutting through the noise. "Make space." Someone pointed at her belly. "Madam, you're pregnant, oh?" "I'm also a nurse," she snapped. "Shift." She knelt beside the man, ignoring the strain in her knees, her heart pounding, not with fear, but focus. This was her world, and even with a broken heart, even with labor knocking softly at her door, Kelechi showed up, unaware that this single moment on a noisy Lagos street was about to change her life forever. For a brief moment, the world shrank to the sound of Kelechi's own breathing. Everything else, the shouting crowd, The blaring horns, the curious onlookers, faded into background noise. All she could see was the man on the ground, his chest rising unevenly, his skin an unhealthy shade of gray. She placed 2 fingers on his neck, pulse present, weak. "Okay," she murmured to herself, "we're not losing anybody today." She tilted his head gently, clearing his airway the way she had done hundreds of times in the emergency ward. "Sir, if you can hear me, blink," she said. Nothing. A man in the crowd shifted nervously. "Madam, leave amo. What if not spiritual matter?" Kelechi shot him a sharp look. "If spirit day choke person, he still need oxygen." Some people chuckled nervously. Others moved closer. "Somebody call an ambulance," she commanded. "Now." A young woman raised her phone with shaking hands. "I'm calling." Kelechi loosened the man's tie and unbuttoned the top of his shirt. She checked his breathing again, counting carefully, staying calm though her back screamed in protest. Another pain gripped her abdomen, stronger this time. She sucked in air through her teeth. "Not now," she whispered. "Please." She pressed her palm lightly to her belly, then forced her focus back to the man. His eyelids fluttered faintly. "That's it," she encouraged. "Stay with me. You didn't dress this fine to die on the road." A ripple of uneasy laughter moved through the crowd. Minutes passed, each one stretching like an hour. Then it happened. A sudden warm rush. Kelechi froze. Her eyes widened as reality hit. "Oh no," she breathed. "Not now. Please, not now." A woman screamed. Her water done break. The crowd erupted again. "Ah, 2 emergencies. Madam, lie down. Who send you come out like this?" Kelechi stayed exactly where she was. Her hands were still on the man's chest. "I'm fine," she said firmly, though her voice trembled. Just give me space." She adjusted her position, breathing through the contraction like she had taught countless expectant mothers. "In and out," she coached herself. "In and out." The man suddenly coughed, hard. He sucked in a breath like someone returning from underwater. Kelechi nearly laughed with relief. "Yes," she exclaimed. "That's it. Welcome back." His eyes flew open, wild and confused. What happened?" "You collapsed," she replied, relief softening her tone. "And you nearly gave me premature labor. Please don't do that again." Despite himself, he let out a hoarse chuckle. Then he noticed her soaked uniform and her swollen belly. "Wait, you're pregnant?" he asked weakly. She raised an eyebrow. "Congratulations, you have eyes." Before he could reply, another contraction hit her, stronger than before. She winced, gripping the edge of the pavement. The man struggled to sit up. "You need help." "So do you," she shot back, "but we'll manage." Relief washed over the crowd. As the paramedics rushed in, the man reached for Kelechi's hand, his grip surprisingly strong now. "I don't know your name," he said breathless, "but thank you." She met his gaze, tired but steady. "Just make sure you stay alive. I don't have strength to save you twice." They were lifted onto stretchers side by side, 2 strangers, bound by chaos, courage, and timing. Kelechi lay back as the ambulance doors slammed shut, pain rising and falling within her. She didn't know his name yet. She didn't know he was wealthy, powerful, or important. All she knew was this: life had just shifted, and there was no turning back. The ambulance doors slammed shut with a loud bang, sealing Kelechi and the stranger inside a tight, sterile world, filled with the smell of antiseptic and urgency. "Madam, focus on your breathing," one of the paramedics said, adjusting her position. "How far along are you?" 39 weeks, Kelechi replied between breaths. "And I was supposed to be on morning shift." The paramedic blinked. "You nurses are something else." Across from her, the man lay strapped to the stretcher, oxygen mask pressed to his face. His chest rose more steadily now, but his eyes never left Kelechi. "You're in labor," he said, disbelief and concern mixing in his voice. "And you still helped me." She turned her head slightly and gave him a tired smile. "People don't stop dying because I'm pregnant." He let out a short laugh that turned into a cough. "You're unbelievable." Another contraction rolled in, strong, demanding. Kelechi gripped the rail of the stretcher, breathing through it, sweat forming along her hairline. "Madam, your water has fully broken," the paramedic confirmed. "We're taking you straight to the labor ward." The man shifted, alarmed. "Which hospital?" "General Hospital," the paramedic answered. He frowned. No, please, take her to St. Catherine's. The paramedic hesitated. Sir, we can't. I'll take responsibility, he said firmly, his voice regaining a surprising authority despite his condition. I know the hospital. They'll be ready. Kelechi turned to him sharply. Excuse me, sir. This is not the time to be giving orders. He met her gaze, unoffended. Trust me, you and your baby deserve the best care. She studied him for a second, then sighed. As long as nobody starts charging me billionaire money. He smiled faintly. I'll handle the bill. Ah, she muttered. So you're one of those patients. The paramedics exchanged looks, then rerouted. As the ambulance sped through traffic, the man finally spoke again. My name is Adekunle. Kelechi, she replied, and the baby has been kicking me since morning, like he's late for an appointment. Adekunle chuckled softly. He must be impatient. She raised an eyebrow. He gets that from his father. The words slipped out before she could stop them. Adekunle noticed the sudden tightness in her expression. I'm sorry, he said gently. Did I say something wrong? She shook her head. No, life did. Silence fell briefly, broken only by the siren and her controlled breathing. You saved my life today, Adekunle said quietly. Most people walked away. She shrugged. Most people are not nurses. He shook his head slowly. Still, you chose me over your own pain. She looked at him then, really looked at him. And you chose to stay, she replied. Most men would have fainted or disappeared. He smiled. I owe you at least that. By the time the ambulance pulled into the hospital compound, Kelechi's labor had intensified. She was wheeled out swiftly, Adekunle insisting on following, despite protests. Sir, you need observation, a nurse told him. I'll be fine, he replied. I'm not going anywhere. Kelechi glanced back as they pushed her toward the labor ward. Mr. Adekunle, she said between breaths, if anything happens, make sure you don't collapse again. He laughed softly. Deal. Neither of them knew it yet, but that ambulance ride had tied their lives together. 2 hearts rescued, 2 futures colliding, and 1 miracle on the way. The labor ward lights were bright, too bright, but Kelechi barely noticed. Pain came in waves now, strong and commanding, leaving her no room for fear. She had coached countless women through this same journey, held their hands, wiped their sweat, whispered encouragement into their ears. Now, she was on the other side. Madam Kelechi, contraction is building, the midwife said calmly. I know, Kelechi replied through clenched teeth. My uterus just sent me a memo. The midwife laughed. Nurses are the worst patients. Because we know too much, Kelechi shot back, then groaned as another contraction hit. Ah, this child is not smiling at all. Outside the ward, Adekunle paced like a restless lion. His jacket was gone, sleeves rolled up, hair slightly disheveled, nothing like the polished man who had collapsed hours earlier. Sir, please sit, a nurse urged. How can I sit? He replied. She's in there alone. You're not the father, the nurse said gently. He stopped pacing and frowned. I know, but somehow I feel responsible. Inside, Kelechi screamed, not in fear, but in strength. Push, the midwife instructed. I am pushing, Kelechi yelled, unless you want me to push the hospital building too. Good, the midwife said calmly. That's the spirit. Minutes stretched into eternity. Sweat soaked Kelechi's forehead. Her hands gripped the bed rails like anchors. Just one more push, the midwife said. Kelechi inhaled deeply, gathering every ounce of strength she had. Every heartbreak, every lonely night, every tear swallowed in silence. She pushed, and then a sharp, powerful cry filled the room. The sound sliced through the walls, through the corridor, straight into Adekunle's chest. He froze. That cry, he whispered. That's a strong one. Inside the ward, Kelechi collapsed back against the pillow, breathless, exhausted, smiling through tears. It's a boy, the midwife announced. Very healthy. Tears spilled freely now. My champion, Kelechi whispered. Moments later, the door opened. Is the father present? The midwife asked. Kelechi shook her head slowly. No. Before she could finish the sentence, Adekunle stepped forward. I'm here, he said quietly, if she allows it. Kelechi turned her head, surprised to see him. You didn't run, she said weakly. He smiled. I told you, I'm not going anywhere. The midwife studied them, then nodded and gently placed the baby in Adekunle's arms. The room went silent. The tiny bundle squirmed, then settled. Adekunle stared down at the baby, his hands trembling slightly. Hello, he whispered. You made your mother work very hard. The baby yawned. Kelechi watched from the bed, something warm and unfamiliar blooming in her chest. Help me name him, she said softly. Adekunle looked up, eyes shining. Savior. She nodded slowly. Yes, that's exactly who he is. Adekunle handed the baby back reluctantly. I don't know what tomorrow holds, he said quietly, but today, you gave me life twice. Tired, but radiant. Careful, sir. If you keep talking like that, people will think you're trying to stay. He chuckled. Maybe I am. Outside, the world continued its noise and chaos, but inside that hospital room, something new had been born. Not just a child, but hope. The hospital room was unusually quiet for a Lagos afternoon. Sunlight filtered through the half-drawn curtains, casting soft lines across the tiled floor. Kelechi sat upright on the bed, Savior sleeping peacefully against her chest. His tiny fingers curled like he was holding on to the world already. She stared at him, still amazed. So you really came, she whispered, after all the wahala. A soft knock came at the door. Come in, she said. Adekunle stepped inside, carrying a small gift bag and wearing a simple outfit. No suit, no polished shoes, just a crisp shirt and jeans. He looked human. You look different, Kelechi said, eyeing him. He smiled. I was told to dress less like a man who collapses on roads. She laughed softly. Good advice. He walked closer, peering down at the baby. He's perfect. Of course, she replied. He takes after me. Adekunle chuckled, naturally. He hesitated, then cleared his throat. I wanted to check on you, and him. Kelechi nodded. Thank you. Not many people do that without being forced. He placed the gift bag on the table. Inside were baby clothes, simple, tasteful, expensive without screaming it. She raised an eyebrow. Oga Adekunle, I hope you didn't sell your kidney for these. He laughed. Relax. I have spares. She rolled her eyes. God help me. They fell into an easy silence, broken only by the baby's soft breathing. Why did you stay? Kelechi asked suddenly. Adekunle looked at her. Because walking away didn't feel right. She studied his face. People usually walk away from women like me, pregnant, alone, too much baggage. He shook his head slowly. I walked away from enough things in my life. I'm tired of that. Her heart skipped. Just a little. A nurse peeked in. Madam Kelechi, your discharge will be in 2 days. Kelechi nodded. Thanked you. When the nurse left, Adekunle spoke again. I'd like to help you, he said carefully. Not out of pity, out of respect. She raised an eyebrow. Help how? With the hospital bills, a better apartment, support. She stiffened immediately. I'm not charity. He lifted his hands. I know, and that's why I'm asking, not assuming. She looked down at Savior, then back at him. You can help by not disappearing, she said quietly. People promise things when emotions are high. Adekunle met her gaze, serious now. Then judge me by what I do next. That evening, after he left, Kelechi found herself smiling for no reason at all. For the first time since the heartbreak, she didn't feel alone. And Adekunle, driving away from the hospital, realized something unsettling. Saving a stranger had been easy, but staying would change everything. 3 weeks passed faster than Kelechi expected. Motherhood arrived without apology. Sleepless nights, sore muscles, endless laundry, and a tiny human who seemed to believe midnight was the best time for conversation. Why are you looking at me like that? She whispered one night as Savior stared at her wide-eyed. I didn't wake you. You woke me, he responded with a soft gurgle. Exactly, she sighed. No remorse. Despite the exhaustion, her heart felt fuller than it had in months. Adekunle kept his word. He didn't hover. He didn't overwhelm. He simply showed up. Groceries arrived when she was too tired to cook. Baby supplies appeared without announcement. Sometimes he just called. "How are my two heroes today?" he'd ask. She always pretended to be annoyed. "We're fine. Stop calling us heroes like we're a movie." But she smiled every time. One afternoon her phone buzzed. "Adekunle, may I invite you and Savior to my home this weekend? No pressure." She stared at the message for a long moment. Her mind screamed danger. Her heart whispered, maybe. She typed back slowly. "Kelechi, as long as your house doesn't look like a museum, I don't want to be shouting sorry every 2 minutes." His reply came instantly. "Adekunle, deal, I'll child-proof my wealth." On Saturday morning, a sleek car stopped in front of her building. Kelechi adjusted Savior in his carrier and muttered, "See how destiny is embarrassing me." The gate opened to reveal a stunning modern Nigerian home. Tasteful, warm, not flashy. Clean lines, earth tones, carved wooden panels inspired by Yoruba motifs, soft lighting, and a living room that somehow felt expensive and welcoming at the same time. She froze. "Jesus," she whispered. "So this is where rich people rest." Adekunle laughed. "Please enter before my neighbors think I kidnapped you." Inside, Savior stared around like he was inspecting his inheritance. "He likes it," Adekunle said proudly. Kelechi raised an eyebrow. "Don't start." They sat. She relaxed slowly, noticing how the house felt lived in, not cold, not intimidating. "You did this yourself?" she asked, nodding toward the decor. "Yes," he said. "I wanted something that felt like home, not a hotel." She smiled softly. "You did well." They talked easily about work, life, Lagos traffic, and her return to the hospital soon. At one point, Savior began to cry. Adekunle jumped up. "What do we do?" She laughed. "Relax, he's not giving an eviction notice." She took him, humming gently. Adekunle watched them, something shifting quietly inside him. "You know," he said carefully, "I don't see you as a project." She met his eyes. "Good, because I'm not one." "I see you as family," he continued, "as you'll allow it." Her chest tightened. She nodded slowly. "We'll take it one day at a time." He smiled. "That's all I'm asking." As she prepared to leave later that evening, Adekunle placed a small box in her hand. "What's this?" she asked. "Just something practical." Inside was a key. "My house is always open to you," he said. "No explanations required." She closed her fingers around it, overwhelmed. For the first time in a long time, Kelechi believed. Some invitations weren't traps, some were beginnings. Just when Kelechi begins to believe that life has finally chosen her, the past comes knocking. A secret Adekunle never planned to reveal. A woman who claims a right to his future. And a truth about Savior that could either bind them forever or tear everything apart. What happens when love meets power? When loyalty is tested by blood? And when Kelechi must choose between walking away in dignity or fighting for a family she never planned to have? Next part of the story promises heartbreak, confrontation, and shocking revelations. Will Adekunle stand his ground? Will Kelechi protect her heart again? Or will destiny demand a higher price? Don't miss it. Like this story if you felt the emotion. Comment your predictions. Subscribe for the next chapter, because the next twist will change everything. The story has just begun.